Okay, Pops. Okay, Kimberly, we are back. We're going to be talking about, I think, a bit of a hot button issue. At least I know you both have interesting takes on this. More and more dealerships are piloting or testing some variation of one person selling. So obviously, Pops, when you were in the industry, you were a sales manager. You're also a salesperson at times and spent a short amount of time, a short stint as a general manager. Kimberly, you were an F&I manager. There's two distinct kind of like areas of the sales department: the front end of the sale, what you were doing in your career, Dad; the back end of the sale, what you were doing, Kimberly, the finance, the insurance. But we're seeing more and more of a push and an interest in one person handling the whole car deal. I thought I'd cue it up for both of you. What are your takes on this, the pros, the cons, the things that are going to go well, the things that are going to go poorly? And I guess, Pops, I'll kick it to you first.
Well, I can remember back in the early 2000s when we were out in Arizona, and there was a Toyota dealership that opened up on the west side of town. And their whole concept was it's one person that's going to handle the entire transaction from start to finish. Your salesperson is going to sell you the car. Your salesperson is going to handle the financing and insurance and all the paperwork associated with the sale. You only deal with one person. And those of us who had been in the industry for any time at all thought, well, this is never going to work, except they rapidly became one of the fastest growing Toyota dealerships in the Phoenix marketplace because customers, to our chagrin, customers really kind of preferred only dealing with one person. Go figure. And it never grew quite as quickly in the industry as we thought it might. But with the advent of the pandemic, I think you see more and more dealerships starting to go into that direction of sales.
And Kimberly, do you have particular concerns about this? I know one of the big things that you're passionate about is compliance. You know, like you want to make sure that things are done ethically, correctly. And honestly, some people say that, hey, by moving to a one-person solution, you get a more compliant and less, hands involved and potentially even more ethical. What is your take on that?
I'm kind of on the fence about it, quite honestly. I see both sides of it. I can see where the dealership can save so much money by having one person, and I can also see how the consumer, it's just so good to be able to deal with one person, because whenever you introduce a whole new person, the finance manager, into the process, it doesn't go over so well many times. My concern would be it takes a long time, I believe, to learn how to become a good finance manager, and that means an ethical finance manager. So I do know that there are some groups out there that are coming in and they're training some of these sales professionals in the F&I world, and my concern is it's not enough. 2 weeks is not enough. That's my concern. That's the only thing that I have with it. Yeah.
I know that the group that I worked for, right before I retired, we had signed up to do negotiation-free selling at two of our stores. At our Audi store, where I was working as a sales manager, and at our mini store. The negotiation-free selling the buy-in didn't seem to be strong enough from the sales team and the management team at the Audi store as was needed. So it was a relatively short-lived experiment at that store. I can tell you during the experiment that the finance manager was certain that if it succeeded, his position would be cut, because he could see where it could just end up being one person to be able to do everything, because everything is disclosed in a transparent manner as far as rates are concerned, money factors are concerned. Everything is just made as clear as possible. Now at the mini store, I believe they're still using that system today, which is 3 years after I left, where maybe it's just the mini customers, but they really prefer a negotiation-free experience. where the prices are set based on what the market conditions are. Interest rates are set based on whether you're approved or not approved.
But is that one person, Dad, or is that just negotiation free?
Well, that at that store it's just negotiation free. Now the group of consultants that we employed to help us set that up, for many of their dealers, they do one person.
Why didn't you guys do that? Why did you do just the negotiation?
The people I worked for were not willing to take that much of a risk, because typically when you first go to this system, your sales drop. Okay, because people are so conditioned to go in and negotiate. And when you suddenly say to them, no, well, customers leave and they go elsewhere, or they take your price and just go elsewhere and try and beat it. So typically what happens is sales decline. You really have to push how your culture is different from everybody else's, and ultimately sales over time come back and actually increase. And the group that I worked for, well, they were too afraid at having sales decline. So that's why we didn't do one price, one person, 1 hour.
Yeah, so that would mean then the same price for the vehicle, the same price for interest rate, and also the same price for product. Am I right?
Yes,
so,
there was no negotiation on anything.
Yeah, and again, this is one of those things where people are all over the place, right? Some people like to negotiate stuff. They like that. That's part of buying a car. Am I wrong?
I gotta tell you guys, I think this is actually I find it fascinating working with both of you, right? Like, you have this breadth of experience and were able to provide for your families because you worked at the dealerships, and were able to have really good careers doing that. I see this as such a great thing. The whole cost infrastructure at the dealership, in my opinion, is broken. There's so many people, so many disparate departments. There's so many costs to sell a car, and there's a lot of complexity to actually sell a car. We could probably someday, Kimberly, do a whole video on what happens after you've bought the car in the back office.
Absolutely.
You and the accounting, and just everything. There's a ton of work and paperwork. Yeah. That being said, there's so much inefficiency, and this idea of this is the price of everything, and it needs to be a fair price, and it needs to be transparent. And I think that's what's gonna
that's key.
Your anecdote, Dad, about the dealership that you worked for, the group that you worked for, not trusting it enough to want to really jump in, head first, or dive in head first. I think that's what's going to hold things back, because if you go wishy-washy, then you get this mixed experience, and then you're going to go back to that traditional dealership that you're more in tune with.
It's hard to get ownership if they've been in the car business for any length of time to say, yes, we want to do things radically different from everybody else.
Yeah.
It's tough to get that buy-in. And even though the younger set of the ownership team said we should try this, trust me, they were still getting an earful from the older portion of the management team, the ownership team, who was saying, this is never going to work. Okay? And so if you don't have 100% buy-in from the very top, and we didn't, then it can't be successful. But there are dealer groups out there, and one that we talked to before we did this was the Schomp organization out in Colorado. And they've been doing this for years, and they love it. They swear by it. It's the only way they want to do business. And the people they employ, they try to employ people that have never been in the car business before.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's got to be a totally different. Everything's different.
Yeah, they want to train them how to take care of customers, as opposed to training them how to take advantage of customers. And that is such a mind shift that a lot of dealer groups can't handle that.
And also, they're making a literal ton of money right now in the current setup, so why would you go away from it? That's the other...
But even with that said, the dealerships that are negotiation free, and it's one person, one price, 1 hour concept, they're making a boatload of money too. And it's easier, and it's quicker, and everybody's happier.
Yeah. When I think about the overhead for the dealer being so much lower, I mean, you're talking about insurance and salaries. Oh my God, when you take a finance manager's salary out of the equation of dealership world, that's a lot of money. So I like the idea, and you are spot on, Ray. Everybody's going to have to be on board with it, and the older ones are that's
Never.
just not going to happen. Not going to happen. So I see it good for a dealership, and I see it good for the consumer because of the personal touch that they're going to get. You know, they're not being swapped from salesperson to finance manager. You know, and then you're tired from this, and now you got to go into the finance office and get beat up from somebody new.
I'll throw one comment out there, though. The one thing that gives me pause about this, and I am genuinely excited about the idea of efficiency and a better customer experience at the dealership, even if it does make a YAA obsolete 10 years from now. The reason I don't think it will is because the whole concept behind the franchise-dealer relationship is to set up local monopolies. What's really bad when you have a monopoly? When someone owns the market and can do whatever the heck they want. And so we've seen for a really long time that from a customer experience standpoint, when there's a local monopoly, we can treat people like crap and they're still going to come buy the cars from us because, well, we have the cars. And my concern is the customer experience might get better, but instead of keeping profits in check, we might see, well, now we're providing an even better experience, so we should make even more money. And my concern is when you have a local monopoly, you don't really have the opportunity for competition to drive down price. And so you don't want to race to the bottom, which is what we've experienced for a long time, like where my dad worked for Audi and you could literally not a single Audi ever sold for anywhere near MSRP. And if you bought an Audi at MSRP, I'm sorry. But like, I'm a little bit nervous. They're local monopolies, and monopolies typically take advantage of things. And so I get a little concerned, but I still think we're moving in the right direction.
I see that.
I know from my perspective that the negotiation-free selling that we finally went to was something that I had pushed for and suggested to the ownership group 3 or 4 years prior to them actually implementing it. It's when you're looking for ways to try and change how cars are sold. I'm not the brightest guy in the world, but I just thought ease of doing business is the first step. And if the price is the price, that makes ease of doing business simpler. But maybe there's better ways than negotiation free. I don't know, but I just thought as a way to try and change the industry, that was the first step that we needed to get dealerships and manufacturers and factories on board with. That let's figure out what the average transaction price is per model and make that the price of the damn car.
But Dad, we're not there. I mean, just to be clear, like, we're not
I
there.
understand that. I understand that, but this, in my mind, this is the first step to getting us to go into that direction. Now, I will also say that it hasn't caught on as much as I would have liked to have seen it catch on, and it probably won't because, well, there's too many older car people that own dealerships that aren't looking for that type of change, that look at dealerships today as a printing press of being able to just print money. And you know, they're going, why should we change? Why do we, people keep buying cars whether they're having a good time buying them or not. So.
Yeah, this is a very interesting topic. I really find it fascinating. Again, going back to a compliance point of view, I think that I know that the general public doesn't understand that if a finance manager screws something up, it can be tens of thousands of dollars of fines on a daily basis. So my concern would be taking this one person, training them to be a salesperson, a sales manager, and finance manager. The paperwork doesn't get any smaller. It just grows and it grows and it grows. There's a sense of liability there that concerns me.
Well, let's leave it there for today. Let us know in the comments down below your take on the idea of moving to one price and one person and 1 hour. And yeah, let us know what you think about this. I find our discussion to be really fascinating because we all have such different perspectives, unique perspectives. But yeah, thank you guys for diving into this. And I can't wait to see 10 years from now what things look like and whose predictions come to fruition.
Yeah,
I
me
hope
too.
I'm-
What if it's...
I hope I'm here in 10 years.
Oh, you will be. What if it's a drive-through?
Oh, I
What if
like
it's a
that.
drive-through?
Where you
like-
pay in crypto.
Yes,
Yeah.
a drive-through where you just go up to the window and say, "I'd like that new Audi, please. I'm transferring my crypto." Okay.
The only better drive-through is a drive-through liquor store.
And that went over quite well, didn't it?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that whoever came up with that,
What could possibly go wrong?
what could go wrong?
Thanks,
I
guys.
love that.
Yep.